Look, I guess that when you think of national days for celebration, every country in the world in more recent times at least has chosen a day as their national day for celebration. The big difference though between other countries and Australia is that Australia is the only country that I'm aware of where the date that is chosen, its significance reflects the coming to the country of a particular race. The Americans don't do it with the coming of white people. The Afrikaners don't do it with the coming of the Dutch and the British. Most countries around the world look for a date that signifies their independence from the rulers of Europe in times gone by. So Australia really is lagging behind the trend that other countries use of looking for a date that is relevant to a new nation and relevant to all the people that are in it. I'm not quite sure why people need to have a national day, but the reality is that people do. Whether that's out of insecurity or whether people just like to be part of something and want to celebrate the goodness of what they believe they are part of, the reality is that everybody wants a national day. And therein lies the problem for Australia. Because if January 26th is kept as the date that people should be proud of being part of something, then what about Aboriginal people? What about the Asians who came in later? What about the blacks who came from Africa? What about the other immigrants who don't have an Anglo-Saxon background? How can they feel that they are part of a new nation when the new nation keeps reflecting back to the date of January 26th, which marks the coming of one race at the expense of another? There are four reasons, I think, why the date of Australia Day needs to be changed. The first is, how can you have a national date of unity that is race-based? How can you expect all peoples of multicultural Australia or people of different races to join in the celebration of one particular race that is the dominant race, that is the Anglo-Saxon race? That is not a basis for unity. That is a basis for division. It is a basis for people imposing their view that one race is more superior to the others. So in my view, so long as January 26th marks the coming to Australia of one particular race, that in itself is a reason to change it. A lot of people say that they are not celebrating the events of January 26th or the atrocities that took place. Well, that's another reason to change the date. If people are celebrating all of the good things that Australia is proud of, why do we need to retain January 26th if it's not the date that we are using as a basis for celebration? Another reason to change the date is that anything that is connected to the underlying policy or has the smell of the white Australian policy cannot be used as the basis for a unified date of celebration of a nation. And for those people who believe that the white Australian policy no longer exists, have a look at the boat policy. I wonder if the Afrikaners had left Africa in the 1990s, or the white Zimbabweans from Rhodesia had left in the boats in the 1970s and 1980s, would Australia have sent the military out to stop them from coming to the shores?
No!
I don't think so. And if people accept that the boat policy and the stopping of the people who are looking for sanctuary from the events that have happened back in their countries is not race-based, well, you can argue that case, but you certainly can't argue that the basis of Australia Day being January 26th is not race-based and is not based on the white Australian policy. Because the first time that January 26th was put up to mark the new nation of Australia was in 1808 by the people in New South Wales who wanted to celebrate their victory over Aboriginal people in the colony of New South Wales. It became formal in New South Wales in 1818, and it wasn't until 1935 that all states and territories in Australia adopted January 26th as the official date. Now, the significance of the 1935 period is that the white Australian policy was at its height. The immigration policy was predominantly for Anglo-Saxons from Britain to come to Australia, but no others. Australia had to be kept a white nation. And so if we are to inherit the views of people made up 80 years ago in a period that none of us would agree with, that is precisely what the politicians of today, Kim accepted. The other politicians are happy to run with a policy that was derived from the views of racist Australia 80 years ago. And that is in itself is a reason to review the date of Australia Day. A lot of people say there are compelling reasons why we do not need to change January 26th as the date for celebration of Australia Day. Well, if they are right, then why don't they accept the challenge to argue their case? If they believe their case is so compelling, it is a reason in itself to have the debate, because they should be able to knock us off with their arguments. So we throw out the challenge to all those who believe that the case for January 26th is so compelling that it would knock off any other arguments, to put their case forward. And yet when you see the Tasmanian media's response to the debate, I am so proud that the Tasmanian press have letters to the editors, articles, bringing up the debate about whether this date is appropriate or not. And yet when you listen to ABC radio championing the cause of Australia Day, let's everybody enjoy Australia Day, everybody go out and celebrate Australia Day. This is the impartial Tasmanian ABC radio, who is meant to reflect the views of all people in its community. Yet how many opportunities has ABC radio given to those who say there should be a change of date? Not one. And for those of us who believe that these events don't change anything, I remind us of events that have taken place where people began from small things and from that got results. I remember in 1976, there was a bloke sitting up on the top of Mount Nelson, I read in the newspaper, and I couldn't work out how a hunger strike by this young man who was a doctor was going to stop the nuclear ships coming from America to Hobart. You see any nuclear ships now? Bob Brown led that cause in 1976, and as a result of that he got a victory by raising the issue. Remember the Chook woman, Pam Clark? Sally Clark's auntie? No, Sally? Everybody laughed at Pam Clark coming down ringing the bells at Parliament House and reminding the politicians of the battery hens. Now most people in Tasmania buy free-range eggs. And we don't have to look too far in our own history either, because in the 1970s we were scoffed at, we were laughed at, we were ridiculed in the Tasmanian media. Who are these people? We've already found the final solution. Who are these half-castes and descendants who dare to stand up and declare that they are Aboriginal people who have always been here and always will be here? And remember those people who marched in the street. Sometimes we started off with 40 or 50. In the time in the late 1980s when the mantra from the politicians in Tasmania was land rights elsewhere, yes, but never here. We got land rights in 1995 and now we're talking about land rights again. Things can change. are looking for new dates, nearly finished, Greg. If we are looking for new dates, there have been suggestions already bandied around in the public arena. One suggestion to get away from January 26th and its notion of a race-based day of celebration is to celebrate April 25th as Anzac Day, make that Australia Day. Another view is that the first sitting of the Federal Parliament on May the 9th could be a new date, and a third alternative that's been bandied around is the date of the 1967 referendum, which marked a turning point in Australian race relations when everybody was entitled to vote and to participate in Australian society. And of course, to finish on this point about alternative dates, if there is to be a date, then let it be one where the children of Tasmania are able to participate in it, understand it, discuss it, and either agree with it or disagree with it. Instead of holding the date of Australia Day in the out-of-school season, let's hold it in the season, in the school periods, when the children of Tasmania can let the rest of us old fellows know their views by formally being involved in the debate, a debate that I'm sure will have a result that they would reject January 26th and choose another day. Thank you.